Support the Amigos podcast and keep the Amiga goodness flowing for just $1 a month. Visit our page at patreon.com/AmigosPodcast.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Amigos, the podcast about everything Amiga. Amigos is a proud member of the Throwback Network, your home for quality retro podcasts. And now, here are your hosts, Aaron Dowdy and John Bodovkar Schaller.
Hi everybody, welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And this is episode 40.
Whoa! Is that so we get the ABC Wild World of Sports Monday Night Football theme?
And to commemorate this episode of Wonder, we are going to be doing a special game that is a rare recent release for the Amiga. Most of our games come from back in the day. And this is not one of them. This game was...
Well, it sort of is.
Well, it sort of is, but it's sort of not. It is also connected to the wild world of sports because it's a game about karate, which is a sport that is in the world.
Wow, that's a stretch right there.
So, we're talking about Karateka, of course. Some people call it Karateka.
They're wrong.
And but, Aaron, why don't you tell us all about this game?
Well...
We didn't do the news.
I was going to ask you.
I'm not even going to stop the recording. We'll just start the news right now. Aaron, tell us about the news.
Well, I had a few tidbits this week I thought I'd go over. There's an excellent article out, and I will link it. It's at atlasobscura.com. And it's simply an article about the Amiga's role in the 1990s as a cable guide machine. If you watched cable TV, and especially in the States, and I can't say overseas if that's the way it was done. Heck, it could still be like that for all I know. The TV guide channel you would go to see what was going on that would scroll through, that was generally an Amiga doing that for the longest time. I would not be surprised if there were still places that still had an Amiga doing it. Again, this was a video toaster. The Amiga had to write outputs and everything to make this work. I've seen video and pictures of what they used before the Amiga took over, and it was god awful. It looked like it looked archaic compared to what the Amiga could do. And then occasionally, I always got a hearty laugh, and I'd flip over to that channel and just see Guru Meditation flashing on the screen. Did you ever see anything like that?
No. Well, if I would have, I would have known what to make of it.
Yeah.
But I haven't thought about the old TV guide channel in forever.
Yeah. I'm the same way. This article popped up, and it's a real good read. So that's something I would have a look at. Something else I wanted to discuss real quick, since we're talking about Karateka. The man behind Karateka, for you that don't follow this stuff real closely, is a fellow named Jordan Mechner. Jordan Mechner, he's really a man of many talents. He not only did he do Karateka, which was his first big game, he also did Prince of Persia, Prince of Persia 2, which was not bad.
Did he do Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time?
He did. He did do that. He did a game called The Last Express as well.
The Last Express.
I don't know that one.
That is a adventure game, a point-and-click adventure game that has a real-time clock that ticks down as you try and solve the mystery.
That seems to be one of his MOs, because there's a real-time clock in Prince of Persia. And Prince of Persia, so, you've played that one then, eh?
Yeah, it's a wonderful game.
I've not played it, but I mean, Mechner's a talented guy. And he also worked on the film, Prince of Persia films, apparently.
Huh.
And he apparently has done film work as well. But he's a really interesting cat. I read, it was last year, someone had posted his sort of like a writing diary of when he was working on Prince of Persia. And this was coming off of Karateka being a major sleeper hit. It came out of nowhere. I mean, this guy came out of nowhere, and we'll get into why here shortly. But it was really interesting to see his thoughts as to how things went down. Because, I mean, part of it, it's not like he'd written the game, but the majority of it's after the game was written, and it's just like, what is the publisher doing? How are they? What am I doing here? What are they screwing me? What's happening? It's a lot of unease. a lot of self-doubt occasionally, but it's real. I mean, it was sort of brave to put something like that out. So anyway, when I was doing research for this episode, I noticed that he had a book out called The Making of Karateka, Journals 1982 to 1985. It's available on Amazon. I've not read it. I'm going to. I found it literally hours before we recorded. But it looks like it'd be interesting. And if it's anything like the other article I read, if you're sort of into games and the production of the games, it's sort of a must read. It was the previous thing was really good, so I'm guessing this is probably pretty good as well. So we'll link it up. But if you're into that sort of thing, it'd probably be a good read.
Sounds good. What else you got?
I think that's about it. I think we're ready to go.
All right. Well, Karateka is, on the face of it, it's a very simple game. Once you get deeper, it's also kind of a simple game. It's simple on multiple levels, but it's the execution that makes it special.
Yes, I agree.
The main conceit of the game is that your lady has been whisked away by some sort of barren, overlord samurai. And he sends out various flunkies to do battle with you on this ever-expanding terrace that you're on, leading to his courtyard and to the lady.
Akuma is the bad guy.
Akuma Matata.
No, and your girlfriend is Mariko. Mariko's the girlfriend. Akuma's the bad guy. Like Akuma Matata. What is that for? Is that the Lion King?
That is the Lion King.
I never saw that.
You never saw the Lion King?
I'm not.
You know what? You want to make middle school band students laugh? Start talking about Hakuna Fermata.
What's that
Love
mean?
it. Well, you know what a fermata is, right?
No.
Oh, you were in band.
It was like 30 years ago, Bo.
So fermata is a thing that goes over a note that makes you hold the note out loud, and so you say Hakuna Fermata. It means playing for the rest of your days, because that's kind of a parody of the line for the Lion King.
Since I've been in band, they've invented several new instruments that I didn't know about. Well, band kids have strange senses of humor.
That's very true. I fit right in with that. What are we talking about?
Anyway, yeah, Karateka.
Okay.
We probably should mention, before we get too deep into this, that this is not an Amiga game. It was a port of an Atari ST game by a fella named Philippe Gilles-Chardon. Or I'm probably butchering that. He's a French fellow. His sort of his handle is Maynoff. All right.
Bernie.
I looked Maynoff, not Madoff. I looked into this cat because he's done some interesting stuff. This is sort of his MO is bringing stuff across from the ST.
It's a worthwhile MO.
It is. He's got a little list of stuff he's done. He's done a game called Back to the Golden Age. I'm not familiar with that one.
No, I don't know that.
International Karate, which I am familiar with that. He did a Karateka, obviously. He just recently did a game called Oids, O-I-D-S. I don't know if it's an Asteroids ripoff. Again, we haven't tried these yet, but we're going to give him a shot for some Amigos plays sometime in the future. He did Super Sprint.
Really?
Which might be interesting to have a go at. The two that interest me the most are Gauntlet and Joust.
Wow. I want to try all those.
Yeah, and he also did World Karate Championship, which is neat. I was nosed around trying to find something out about Maynoff. I'm going to call him that because it's easier to pronounce. And I found an interview he did in 2014 with a magazine called Obligement. It's an online...
Oh, well, you know what Obligement is. We've talked about them on the show before.
Have I? Have we?
The top, where you could vote for the top Amiga games. Remember we talked about that a couple months ago? That's Obligement.
Yeah, well, there you go. Apparently, they're a big French, online Amiga magazine. Mm-hmm. Anyway, they interviewed this guy. The interview was pretty interesting. Maynoff said he's been at it since '82. He didn't start on the Amiga. He went to he was on the Atari, and then he went up to the Amiga. He likes it. His nickname means nothing. He did mention that, which I'd always wonder what it meant because I'd seen it posted now and again. He invented it. He also he mentions that he worked on a port of what was it, Might and Magic 2 for the Amiga that came over from the Mac. So he's even done that.
Might and Magic, that's a kind of a first-person kind of wizardry game, right?
Yeah, that was a classic series back in the day. He does all his work on an Amiga 1200 with a Blizzard card in it. He doesn't collect games. He likes doing ports from the Atari because it can be fairly simple. He even mentions that, like, if he starts, he'll disassemble the code, he'll reassemble it. Because I was wondering, how's this guy doing this? It seems, of course, I'm a layman. I don't know jack squat about coding. But he had disassembled the code, and then he'll reassemble it, and then make the changes it needs to work on the Amiga.
Yeah. Suffice to say that simple to him may not be simple to normal people.
Right, yeah, no kidding. The game he did was Dungeon Master. If you ever played that, it's a classic game. And the funny thing is,
top-down kind of.
It was actually a first person.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that.
Big deal game. But the hilarious thing is, this was out on the Amiga.
Oh.
So he ported it because he thought the ST because it looked better.
Okay.
And so I haven't looked at these, but that's something else we have to look at. He says that you could have, given the game and how how simple a game it is, he's had these working in not playably, but not fully functional in as quickly as a day. So that's pretty neat. But of course, something complicated, he says, could take months. Something else I was wondering that he touches on in the article: a lot of these games require a beefier Amiga, like a
non-stock
an O20 or an AGA, something like that. And he was asked about that, and he basically said, a lot of it's because the Atari ran slightly quicker, right? The Amiga is a multitasking operating system. There's more overhead.
Makes sense.
Plus, when you port it, sometimes the port is real wacky, and so just the way it's ported will cause it to eat up more system resources as well. So I thought that was kind of neat. So pretty interesting guy. I guess it's just a hobby. So, but he seems to be probably the most prolific porter of anyone on the system. Karateka obviously is the one he's done recently. I'm hoping I'll tell you what, I'd love to see this guy port over Blue Max from anything.
Oh, that would be wonderful. I wonder if the do you think the ST got a Blue Max port?
Something to look into, Bo. We need to call this guy up in France. But he seems like a real nice guy, so I salute him if no one else has. I'd like to get him on the show. I don't think he speaks English. But I sent an email over to what I think is an email address for him, so you never know.
Yeah.
But I figure we'll give it a shot. Anyway, Karateka. Like Boat said, you're a guy in a gi, you're a karate master, you climb up a hill from the ocean, and you fight karate guys until you infiltrate this guy's secret dojo, and you go in there and you fight him, and you try to rescue your girlfriend. Very similar to Mechner's Prince of Persia, with the exception that you're thrown in jail, and then you go fight the guy. It's basically the same thing. The actual gameplay is quite a bit different because you don't really do a ton of fighting in Prince of Persia, and this is all fighting. There's no leaping, there's no climbing. It's just run across a platform. It's a simple game. It was known in the day for the fluidity of the animation. That's what this game's bread and butter was. If you look at its original release on the Apple II, it blew everything away that had ever come before it graphically. Nothing came close. The fellow that did it, Mechner, I always heard that he had used his brother and a camera and with frame capturing techniques to make the fluidity of the character.
The rotoscoping sort of deal.
Right. This game, I did a little digging on how this game came to be. Apparently, Mechner wrote I think it was an Asteroids clone, and sent it to Broderbund. And they said, we're not looking for this. They sent him back a copy of Choplifter, and using some of the way the graphics work in Choplifter and some elements from it, he devised this game.
Really?
So I'm not saying he used Choplifter to make this, but I'm saying he used, I don't know, techniques from it or whatever to help him make this game. His dad did the music for it, which is, the title screen's pretty impressive. It does have quite a bit of music when you're not playing. Yeah. There's a lot going on.
There's little things in this game that are really cool. Like For example, when when Angmar, what's his name? Akuma, when he sends a new fighter to meet you, it will cut back and forth several times. You'll be walking towards I never left my fighting stance. So you'd be slowly advancing towards the fighter.
Yeah.
And your opponent will be running towards you, and it'll cut back and forth. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I like that. It gives you a sense of scope as to how far away the guy
and
is.
It's cinematic too.
Well, I think the reason they do that, it is cinematic. Also, it's a twofold reason, because in this game, you're either in your fighting stance or you're not. Mm-hmm. And when you're not, you can run real fast. And so you can get, effectively, if you run fast in between fights, you can fight less guys.
Oh, I see.
You understand? So you've got, and okay, this guy's 3 screens away. Mm-hmm. He's 2 screens away. Okay, he's going to be coming on the screen this time around. I got to slow down. Because if you run up on a guy and you're on your fighting stance, he'll walk up and knock you cold. Mm-hmm. One shot. Mm-hmm. Sort of like Prince of Persia, if you try to fight a guy without your sword, or you put your sword away and he just comes up and just clops you and you're done. So yeah, I always thought that was a neat angle. The having only played the Atari 7800, the 8-bit versions for the Atari, and the C64 version, I was really impressed with the amount of detail in the ST port.
It's a beautiful game.
It's beautiful. I mean, and we say that given the source. I mean, this thing is not, it's not the most awesomely beautiful graphics either, but I mean, they're stunningly good compared to the other versions.
And it looks just as good as any game in this genre on the platform, if not better.
Yeah. The Atari port was later than the other versions. It came out in '88, the original Atari ST version. So the other ones came out earlier. And so, like for example, although to put it in perspective, the 7800 version, which is considered not very good, came out in '87. So it wasn't like, I don't know what they were doing on the 7800.
They were getting it out the door as fast and as cheap as they could.
Yeah, to put it in perspective, the game was considered a bestseller when it was released in '84. So that shows you that's 4 years of extra time to tinkle, and it pays off. I mean, there are amongst the other graphical enhancements are almost I don't know how parallax scrolling, archways, which are gorgeous.
Yeah.
They're really nice. They've added color to areas. When you see Mechner's work, and again, I'll go back to Prince of Persia. It's very basic. The fluidity of the character makes the characters work. It's not the actual look of the characters. But in this game, they really spent some time. Like, the characters in this look way better than the Amiga release of Prince of Persia. They look much better. So
the sprites are larger in this game too.
They are. Yeah. They are. They're much larger. But your guy, eventually you fight through the courtyard, like Boat said. You go through the dungeon. You fight Akuma will also sends his bird. He's got this giant bird. We were talking earlier on the live stream. In the original ones that I played, the bird was sort of like a falcon. This bird seems like a buzzard,
a California condor.
Yeah, it's a massive bird. So I wouldn't want to fight this guy. I didn't get far enough to fight him in this one. But you fight him. You roll in. You fight a couple of elite guards. Then you fight the man himself. Take him down. And if you can beat him, you win. One of the funny things that Mechner did was after you beat the bad guy, if you stay in your fighting stance when you go into your girlfriend's chamber, she jumps up, runs over, and kills you. Which I don't know what to say about that. It always struck me as odd. I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, "What the hell just happened?" It's a real letdown. And I was also reading that on the original Apple II version, it was released on like a double-sided disc, and if you put the second side in, it would load the game up, and everything would be upside down, which I thought was kind of wacky.
That is funny.
I thought that was kind of wacky. Here's something I did not know that just thought it was interesting, so I threw it in. There's a modern remake of this, which I didn't know about. Did you know about it?
Oh, yeah. I heard about this. This was probably not too long, maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
It says 2012.
Yeah, 2012.
End of 2012. Have you played it?
I've not played it, but I've seen it. It's a gorgeous game.
Well, this one's on the Xbox 360 via Xbox Live Arcade. And apparently it's on the Wii U as well. So I wouldn't mind seeing it, but Mechner was in charge of a small group and did it himself.
This is another game where they totally skewed the normal control methods of, like they didn't make it control like Street Fighter or anything like that. At least the iOS version. It's very kind of abstracted, much like the Amiga version because it's got one button. I wanted to check it out then, and I still want to check it out now.
We'll have to put that on the list, Bo.
Yeah.
But, graphically, a major improvement. Musically, probably, I'd say similar to what the ST had, right? I don't know if this fellow, when he ported it, did anything to change it cosmetically. I'm guessing he didn't. He probably just ported it over. But I have to say, unless there's one out there I haven't seen, this is the most beautiful one. The mountain in the background looks beautiful. The ocean is nice. It's a minimalist feel, and it's funny to look at this now, because if you look at Karateka, especially on the Amiga, because it's a perfect example, you can see Karateka came out, then you had it with that fluid motion, then you had Prince of Persia, then you had the flashback, series that used the similar technique.
Or Out of This World.
Out of This World, yes. That used that similar technique to animate the guy. And it worked for years. I mean, really, he stumbled upon something with that old Apple II that he could use for a while. And of course, this made Mechner famous, and he's one of the. I know him by name. There aren't too many guys I know.
Sure, absolutely.
But overall, I give the game a big thumbs up. I give the port a huge thumbs up, and I like to personally thank the fella that did it. You did a good job, and I hope we see more stuff like that in the future. Blue Max, hint, hint. But I thought it was really good. I enjoyed playing it. Like I said, it's not going to win Gameplay of the Year awards.
Yeah,
but you have to.
It's funny because the fighting is realistic in a way that most karate games are not. You're not jumping over somebody's head, landing on the other side, and kicking them.
And there's no fireballs or lightning kicks. It is. It is probably one of the more realistic karate games of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be a real tough guy, and it is hard. I mean, it seems like there was a way to get past guys every time that I used to know it, but that's been, again, maybe it doesn't work on this port, but I know I couldn't get past them this time.
Yeah.
But, I liked it. What'd you think?
I liked it. I'd only played the 7800 version, which to me seemed fun at the time because there weren't that many karate games like that I'd played. But I think that the simplicity of the gameplay is at this point in time is kind of a strike against it. But if you think about the history of the game and you think about the work that went into this port and the way the graphics are, everybody should check this out just to see it.
Yeah, just for fun. Guess what? There were no Amiga versions of Karateka on eBay.
Stunning.
Yeah. But just for fun, I thought, let's see if I can find any of the original Atari ST versions. All right. Guess what? None.
Really?
None. Apparently. I'm guessing. I'm not a collector of ST stuff for the obvious reason, but I'm guessing if you are a collector and you have a good collection, you're sitting on some pretty good bank.
All that stuff is coming, yeah.
Because ST is not very well represented on eBay, which I sort of use as the barometer for what things go for these days. And I didn't see a ton of stuff for it on in there. Now, guess which version I saw plentiful amounts of?
7800
everywhere.
Yeah,
I've got a box version myself. And
I'm looking. I can see right now 2 copies of it from where I'm sitting, and that's the literal truth. I can see them right there.
I think I know where you got those. It's funny. The 7800 it didn't sell all that well, and you don't see 7800 games that often. But boy, if you see them, you're going to see Pole Position 2 and Karateka.
Yep.
I don't know what that means if they overproduced them.
Pole Position 2 was a pack-in.
Oh, that was the pack-in for it. Well, that explains that. So what's Karateka's excuse?
I don't know. It's, well, you see a lot of Miss Pac-Man. You see a lot of arcade ports for the 7800. The 7800, they overproduce it so much that you can still buy box copies of almost any game for the system for under $10.
It's funny. Not to go off on a tangent about 7800, but a lot of the games we've covered, quite several of them are out on the 7800, like Winter Games comes to mind, and this comes to mind. And the difference in the time the Amiga was released and the 7800 were released was not
Well, the 7800 was 1983 hardware released in 1986.
Right, but I'm just saying you're still talking a couple years, but it's a quantum leap of the quality. I mean, if you go back and watch, I played just for fun. I played the Karateka 17800 for this review, and it's like CGA level graphics basically, effectively, and of course the 7800 has the original Atari sound chip, so.
Yeah. There wasn't a whole lot of love that went into development of 7800 games on the whole. There were a few exceptions. Ninja Golf is great, but
it's still great to have one, if for any reason because of the backwards compatibility.
Yeah, and the Food Fight port actually, because Food Fight is the only home console port of Food Fight.
And they did get Map Mania.
Did they?
Which is crap.
Well,
but it's expensive. But yep. So if you're looking for this on any platform on eBay, I hope you like the 7800. That's all you're getting.
Well, we'd like to thank our sponsors. Let me get their names ready here. Adam Bradley, Chris Folds, Will Williams, Zach Zimmerman, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Chad Halstead, and Brent Dowdy. We thank you for your support. And if you'd like to support our podcast, you can check out our page over at patreon.com/Amigos Podcast. Aaron, what do you think about doing Civilization next week?
Wow, deja vu. I think it's a great idea, Bo. I'm interested to see how it looks after all these years.
All right. Well, we'll see you then.
Adios.